Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anna Gerard Fletcher. I'm the Executive Director of the Energy and Mineral Law Foundation. Hopefully, if you're attending this panel today, you're already familiar with the Energy and Mineral Law Foundation. But if not, let me just say that we have been a accredited provider of continuing legal education for energy attorneys for over 40 years. We put on in-person conferences as well as virtual programming, and we also have a number of scholarly articles that are available as well. And we also have a mission to provide outreach to law schools. So if you're watching this today, then you are a student at one of our member law schools, and we provide to our law students the opportunity for academic scholarships and also for travel scholarships. Academic scholarships, we typically give out about $30,000 in academic scholarships each year. That application usually arrives on our website around the end of the year, and we'll provide it to your schools as well to distribute. And then additionally, we have a program called the Schetroma Travel Grant program. What that is it's an endowed fund by a former member of our organization who specifically requested that we use that money to provide travel and lodging expenses for law students who wish to attend our annual institute. Each summer we put on our annual institute. It's usually 2 to 3 days of educational programming and networking events. And this summer will be June 12th through 14th in Amelia Island, Florida. So definitely something to consider. Should be a fun time in Florida. And we hope that you will take advantage of the Schetroma program to join us. It's a great opportunity to start building your network and also to get some more in-depth and focused education in the areas that you're studying in class. Like I said, I'm the Executive Director of the Energy and Mineral Law Foundation. I have been here since 2018. Prior to that, I was an attorney for the Commonwealth of Kentucky in the Energy and Environment Cabinet, representing primarily the Division for Natural Resources, which includes mine reclamation, enforcement, oil and gas, conservation, and the nature preserves. Additionally, did some work for the Department of Environmental Protection, which is, air, waste, water, the kind of typical enforcement arms you think of. And prior to that, I was a law clerk for a state court judge in Kentucky in the circuit where you have to, by statute, sue the state. So I saw a lot of administrative law, a lot of lawsuits against state agencies and state government officials. And so before that, I attended law school at the University of Kentucky, and prior to that worked for community theater because my bachelor's also from the University of Kentucky is in arts administration and theater. So I've had kind of a windy path to get here. And let me throw it over to Armando, and I'll just have each of you introduce yourselves and talk about your education and career path and kind of how you got where you are.
Okay, thank you, Anna. My name's Armando Benincasa. I am an attorney at Steptoe and Johnson in the Charleston office. My practice is generally related to environmental and regulatory work for larger energy clients, anything from the oil and gas side, the coal side, to wind and some solar projects as well. I've also done some work with governmental agencies. My concentration has basically mostly been on the waste and the water side, but I've also done air quality. I've done work with both state and federal regulatory agencies with regard to my clients. I've been at Steptoe since 2002. Before that, I was with the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. I started my career there after law school. I went to the University of Virginia Law School, and prior to that, graduated from Washington and Lee University, and I had an undergraduate degree in history and political science, which doesn't make me in any way qualified for what I do now, but as I often tell my clients, you have to explain it to me, because if I don't understand it, it's very likely that no one else will understand it. So you're gonna have to dumb it down for me. So with that, I think that's everything. That's how I started and where I am right now.
Great, thanks, Armando. I'm just gonna go across the order I see on my screen, so I'll throw it over to you, Renee.
Thanks, Anna. I graduated from college with a fine arts and German language degree, and I didn't want to be a starving artist, so I thought I'd go to law school. And graduating from law school, at that point, the job market was a little tight, and I eventually ended up getting a job with Cassidy out in Greensburg. And from there, I went to Atlas Energy, which was it's a mid-sized oil and gas operator. That job was very, very interesting in that since it was a smaller office, I was exposed to a lot of different aspects of the oil and gas industry, leasing, employment law, big acquisitions, small acquisitions, you name it. I was involved in it, which was nice. And then Chevron came in and took over Atlas, and Chevron is a global corporation. And so my job became much more siloed. There's a lot of benefits working for Chevron, and there's a lot of negatives when you're that big. And so I ended up leaving Chevron, and I went into private practice at a large, for the Pittsburgh area law firm. Grew the energy practice there, and then we had the opportunity to leave Tucker Arnsberg, and now I'm back with Sean. He likes to tell people that I'm his boss now, but that really just means I do the day-to-day. Right now I'm working on our malpractice insurance renewal. We do, the IT, we do since it's a very small law firm, we kind of do, I have to do the nuts and bolts of just running a business. So yeah, it's been an interesting career, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. And so right now at Sean's, we do mostly certified title opinions, which involves doing research at the courthouse. Our clients contact us in preparation to drill wells. And we tell the client that they have leased the correct party, and that they can, and we'll explain the risks involved with drilling the well from the title aspect of things. And then we provide, it's almost like insurance for on the real estate end of things, that the client has leased the correct party and that they can go ahead and drill their well.
Let me throw it over to you, Stefanie.
Sure. My name is Stefanie Burt. I am currently the Assistant General Counsel overseeing the litigation department at EQT. I joined EQT in March 2020. And in this role, I oversee and manage the company's litigation docket, and give counsel and advice on litigation avoidance, what we would call pre-litigation claims, and insurance, indemnity, and procurement related matters. Prior to joining EQT last year, I was a partner at Reed Smith in their Pittsburgh office in their energy and natural resources group. And my practice was, not surprisingly, litigation for oil and gas companies, exploration and production companies such as EQT or Chevron or Shell, and also for midstream companies. And I had been there for quite some time. Before that, I was a junior associate in Vincent and Elkins, Washington, D.C. office, working on environmental litigation, mostly like CERCLA, clean air, clean water. So I do have sort of like a broad environmental background. And before that, I went to GW Law School in Washington, D.C. and had, the opportunity to have a lot of interesting internships and involvement due to the school's location in Washington. There were a lot of agencies and sort of other nonprofits options and opportunities to get that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Well, let me kind of open it up. I'm going to ask each of you some questions. And I watched a TikTok video about not doing annoying transitions. So I'm trying not to be annoying when I switch back and forth. But let me ask you first, kind of, what is one thing you enjoy about your day to day? And let me start with Renee on that one.
So in my current role, I enjoy being my own boss, but it was a long road to get here. And I don't know that the person coming right out of law school can or should hang out a shingle and practice law by themselves. I think you need to work for a wide variety of, but in-house law firm sizes to find out what you like. Because you may not like being your own boss, and it's really nice. It's on one hand, every day is a work day, and on the other hand, if I need to take a day off, I can. But to be honest, the scales tend to tip to every day is a work day, because at the end of the day, I need to get the work done, and not only do I need to practice law, but I need to manage the firm, make sure lights stay on. So while I enjoy that wide variety of things, it does come with some stress because I'm also in charge of paying our bills. And so, calling clients to ask them to pay the bills is not always fun. So it's, like I said, I enjoy it, but it's not for everybody.
Absolutely. Let me throw it over to you, Armando.
I think that the thing that I enjoy the most are really the people. If I had to tell somebody something about where they're going with their career, I mean, make sure that wherever you land, you enjoy the people around you and you enjoy the camaraderie around you, because that's the way you're going to learn. I think we have a really good firm. We do a very good job of mentoring, and we do a very good job of getting to know each other beyond just, the everyday work that we do together. So I'd say people first, and also clients. I mean, clients, your clients are, they're your clients, but you wind up building a relationship with them as well. And not just on the business side, but on the personal side. These are the folks that you sometimes are going to be, your kids are going to grow up with them, and you're going to have dinner with them. And I enjoy their company during the workday and after the workday. So, I'd say, it's people overall, both, where you're working and who you're working for.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always tell people, go to the office birthday party, even if you have a lot on your plate. It's always good to take that time to build that relationship. Stefanie, let me ask you the same question.
Sure. I think I have two answers to that. With regard to legal work, I think what I enjoy most at this job is really getting to understand, all of the details and the intricacies of this particular client, like being an in-house attorney. So now I know, so much about the way EQT operates and all of the different issues and questions and happenings here, and getting to be involved on the front end. As a law firm litigator, you are pulled in when something has happened, maybe something has gone wrong, or something has been alleged against one of the clients. And here, I really enjoy what I'll call litigation avoidance, which is working with the different business groups and identifying a potential risk or a potential question, and working through it with them to find, a good path forward, a good solution that we think minimizes risk and still allows the business to move forward with the operations and the plans that they have. The other thing I really enjoy about this job is that it's now a very young, very energetic company. There's a lot of people here that are newer or younger in their career or newer to EQT. And so there's a lot of openness to new ideas. Like if you have a new idea, like let's try this, or let's try something a new way. People really listen to that and really value the idea of, changing and making sure that, everybody always has the opportunity to move forward and get better, because everyone is always learning. And so I think that the emphasis here on that is really makes it a really enjoyable culture to be a part of.
Absolutely. Let me switch gears a little bit and ask you, what is one or two things that you find particularly challenging? And we'll go in reverse order. So I'll start with Stefanie on this one.
Sure. One thing I find challenging about this job is that because, I'm overseeing such a broad spectrum of issues, cases, claims, that it can be hard not to feel like you're being pulled in, a dozen different directions every day. I think that's just the nature of a lot of legal practice. And I think certainly a lot of in-house legal practice. On one hand, that's really enjoyable to be a part of a lot of different things, but I do miss sometimes getting super in depth on one issue. Like you can, if you are a litigator at a law firm, you might be super in the weeds on this one particular issue, this one particular case that's going to argument or going to a trial. And that's you're sort of single-minded on that. And being an in-house attorney, you don't have the option to really be single-minded. You have to see the wide view.
That makes sense. Yeah. Same question for you, Armando.
Well, today, if I had to say, what's challenging is the way we're practicing right now, right? I mean, we're doing Zoom. I year and a half ago, I didn't know what the heck Zoom was, other than something you saw in a cartoon somewhere. So, we're adjusting to a more technologically based practice. There are clients that I haven't seen in 18 months that we're now trying to, get back with each other. So, it's, that's been a real challenge, in the last year and a half for everybody, is just adjusting to, the new for right now. And also adjusting over time as we sort of start moving back toward, not what we were before, but some sort of a, mix and match of what we had done in the past and what we're doing now. I think a lot of folks, and Anna, we've talked about this even at EMLF, about, what's the proper balance between, virtual events and in person. How do you, where do you draw those lines? Those aren't easy questions necessarily, because everyone has their own opinion on what, on how they want to deal with those kinds of issues. But as far as challenging throughout my career, it's sort of the same kind of thing that Stefanie's dealing with right now, is that, I deal with a wide variety of issues, whether it's a midstream client or a production client or someone who's in chemical manufacturing, or depending on the type of energy that you talk about, whether it's coal or natural gas or whatever it may be. As I've gotten older, either my brain has sprung a leak or something is happening to me where, it's hard to keep all those things in mind. So you wind up realizing that a good support team, behind you that can keep everything moving for you. And here we do have that. We have a group of practitioners that work together and have specific expertise in certain areas that I'm perfectly willing to say, hey, I'm going to hand this thing off. But again, you do get stretched thin sometimes on exactly, how many different areas that I know enough to be dangerous about some things, but we always have to be careful about that as well. So.
That's interesting, talking about the challenges of practicing in the new technologically enhanced environment, we'll say. I was wondering, Stefanie, have you been in the office since you started in March of 2020?
I've been in the office for some corporate representative depositions, things like that, but I've actually never worked a work day in the office. My last day, sort of ironically, my last day with Reed Smith was the day, like in mid-March 2020, when everything closed down. We were supposed to have like, you know, like a goodbye happy hour, goodbye lunch, whatever, that I was leaving the firm, and those both got canceled and the office shut down. And then the office stayed shut down, like obviously long after I left. And I started at EQT fully remote later that month. And here I am, so.
Certainly an unusual transition to a new job for sure. Renee, let me throw that same question over to you. You know, what do you find challenging?
So most recently, because of COVID, we have turned everything digital, and we work remotely now. And being a small law firm, everybody used to come to the office every day, and every day we shuffled paper around, and now everything is digital. And we had none of those processes in place, none of the software, nobody knew how to use anything. So making that transition has been challenging. Right now we are going to the office on Mondays, and so everyone comes to the office on Monday and as needed, but it's nice to see everybody at least one day a week. I don't know if we'll ever go back to being in the office full time. Yeah, so normally my big challenges would be like project management. Normally we have a large project going on, and managing who's working on what and the turnaround times. That's normally the most challenging part of the job, but COVID has changed that. So.
For sure.
And I would mention, particularly, I mean, for myself, who's been in this office for now 19 years, it's one thing to go through the last 18 months. For a youngster who just finished law school, just entering into a job, first, second year, and to have stepped into this, it's very challenging, I would imagine, and it has been challenging for our younger associates to be able to, to create some of those, relationships with other folks that they're practicing with. We have, I would be the first one to admit that that's a struggle. It is an absolute struggle to keep lines of communication open with particularly younger associates, to make sure they feel like a part of where they're working, because they haven't had the opportunity to be there very much, and actually even to meet everybody. So I would imagine that that's been a particular challenge for younger folks.
I've heard that a lot from some of the younger associates that are involved in the EMLF and at other networking things. It's hard to make the relationships with the partners to get the work, but there's some strategies that people have put into place that have been successful. Hopefully, we'll be heading back to more of a normal situation soon.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you, I tend to think the legal profession came to the idea that its practitioners' mental health was important a little too late in the game, maybe a couple decades behind, but certainly it's something that's a big focus, at least with our bar associations that we work with, is how to encourage a healthy work-life balance and how to deal with stress in a productive way. So I was wondering if you guys have any thoughts on that, any strategies that you've put into place that kind of help you carve out that time for yourselves and for your families, and also, to be present in the workplace. Let me start with Armando on that one.
Here is where technology also can be a help to you. There's really no reason not to get away, because you can always take something with you. I mean, if someone needs to get a hold of you, there's a way of reaching you. Laptops, cell phones, whatever. I mean, I took a conference call in Animal Kingdom in Disney once, so, there are ways of doing that. And I would encourage anybody to make sure that they take time away. And in fact, within the firm here, I mean, everyone is expected to work and work hard, but at the same time, everyone understands that they have a life outside of this office. When I came to Steptoe in 2002, it was right after my second daughter was born. She was 6 months old when I started here, so I can gauge my time here by just looking at her. And one of the reasons I came was I felt comfortable in that I wasn't chained to being here. No one would question, whether or not I had to go get my kid because they were sick at school, or whether or not I had to travel to XYZ dance competition or whatever. I made sure that I, while, work and, they have to be co-equals, and you have to have that balance, and you have to have a place that allows that balance. And I've always found that, I've always stressed it to our younger folks. Don't sit there and say you can't get away. You have to be able to get away, and sometimes relieve that stress, and keep contact with your relations outside of the office setting. It's very, an unhappy spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, makes you unhappy here. So, you have to be able to make sure that you're keeping that balance correct with your family and whatever it is that you're doing outside.
Stefanie, let me ask you that same question.
Sure. I think similar to Armando, I think you have to really take control of your schedule and, your mental health and your wellness for yourself. I think that, most workplaces have in place, they have vacation time or flex time or different leave policies, and that most managers are very understanding, but that I find that some people, some workers and attorneys in particular, I think are sort of reluctant to admit that they need a break or that they might need help or something like that. So I think on one hand, you have to advocate for yourself and make sure you're getting what you need. And then the other thing I would say is that for me, it has worked out well for me to basically just treat and I don't want this to sound wrong, but to treat work as it's like part of your life. It's all one thing. Like the idea of work-life balance, I'm going to work now and then I'm going to not work then. And these are my only working hours and I have to carve this out. You do have to carve time out for yourself, but I don't think it usually works to be I will work 9 to 5 and then I will not work any evenings because that is how I keep a balance. I think it's better to be I need to be fluid with it. And I need to understand that, it is Tuesday and I have all of these things to do for work. And I want to take my daughter to her piano lesson. And I need to stop at the grocery store and the dog needs to get to the vet. And that, if the dog goes to the vet at 11 and I take a work call at 7:30 or answer an email at 8 p.m., you just have to be able to be flexible with yourself and with your schedule and understand that it won't look the same every day and that there is hard to keep firm divisions as an attorney just because, if there's something your internal or external client needs from you and that's when they need it, that's when you have to address it. But at the same token, if it's Friday and it's 2 p.m. and you don't have anything to do, go pick up your kids from school and take them to the park because you have a window of time. So yeah. I think that's how I think about flexibility.
Renee, let me ask you the same question.
I would start out by saying that I think COVID has taught us that needing help or asking for help you should do it. And it's in fact normal. And a lot of people have needed help during COVID, between our life being upheaved and we can't socially interact like we're used to. Our activities have changed. The way we work has changed. The people in the healthcare profession that I speak to, a lot of people needed help, and don't ever be afraid to ask for help, especially, if you aren't comfortable asking your friends for help, by all means, talk to your doctor. I just listened to a book about cognitive behavioral therapy. I like my nonfiction books, and therapy and medical intervention especially for particular episodes in your life is, again, not uncommon, and it's not forever. So just because you need help now doesn't mean you'll need help forever. But back to the crux of the question, I think starting out as a lawyer, so I started with Sean. There was no such thing as a work-life balance. It was, your career, you're starting your career, you were expected to work a lot, you were expected to work hard. And quite frankly, when Sean was working, you were working, which is nights, weekends, holidays. The work-life balance got better when I went in-house to Atlas. But it was still, it was not a 40-hour work week. The stuff needed to get done. Being a lawyer, it's up to you to get it done. And there are certain things only lawyers can do and need to do them and get them done. I would say then moving to Chevron, we had a 980 work schedule, which basically means you work 10 hours a day and then you get every other Friday off. Being especially in management, I found that was just a sneaky way to get me to work a lot longer and harder, because I never seem to get my every other Friday off. It never happens. So if anybody who is, especially as you progress in your career, that's not always work-life balance. And then private practice with billable hours, management overhead, and law firms are run by older gentlemen usually. I think that in my experience is different than Armando's. I found that working at a law firm, there was no such thing as a work-life balance. If anybody mentioned it, that was, well, why aren't they working so hard? Why, how could you not want to live at the law firm? And so like I said, my experience was different. And now that COVID and we're working remotely, some of the older lawyers are not taking to working remotely well. So I think if you were a young associate, I think I would give you the advice to go to the office, and you go to the office every day and you make friends and you get FaceTime with especially the older partners that hand out the work. Remote isn't working for them. That's just the way it is. And so if you're a young lawyer and you're going to work at a mid-size or a large law firm, I don't know that work-life balance will be in your vocabulary for a while. And now that I'm my own boss, which is part of the, I do get more work-life balance. But like I said, it's, every day is a work day and every day has the potential to be a day off. So if I take today off, I'm probably working Saturday. So it just gives me the freedom to shuffle my schedule. And I would hope that law firms are willing to talk about a work-life balance and more willing to acknowledge that you can't live at the office anymore. I think we've all heard the horror stories of associates too afraid to even get up and use the bathroom for fear of losing out on billable hours. Hopefully those days are over, but I don't know that they are for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a good point that it is getting better for a lot of people. And at least that's my experience kind of as an outside observer of different leave policies and different law firm and corporate culture environments. And I thank you too for putting in a plug for asking for help if you need it. I think it can be really hard for lawyers to do that. Lawyers feel like they need to have all the answers, and there are a lot of things that we don't have the answers for, and we need to be able to ask for help.
And I would say that we're used to helping everybody, and we're used to having all the answers, and we are the resource for the client to answer all the questions. And then all of a sudden when we need help, I think it is hard for people to speak up, especially lawyers to speak up.
Absolutely. And we have a really good webinar on demand on our website too, if you want to check it out. It's called Recognizing When You or Your Colleagues Need Help, and you can watch that for free. It's a great presentation of some of our sobering statistics about mental health in the legal profession, and then strategies and for coping and for seeking help and for helping others seek help.
Yeah, I would add that, and it's been 18 months or so since I was at a large law firm, but then and now through all my colleagues that I am still friends with, or, various firms that do work for us, I am seeing that, it has changed, and that there is more flexibility, I think, for the younger associates. And to be sure, they're still working a lot. But I see them having that same sort of flexibility where, like, a lot of the large firms are not calling people back into the office. They're able to work from home. They're able to work from the office or from home different days, depending on what works for them. And sort of like adjust their schedules accordingly. I know of a number of like much larger law firms that have things like ramp down and ramp up policies before a leave, where, when you return, say, from a maternity or paternity leave, that you would come back at 60%, then 70, then 80, then 90%, basically ramping your hours back up. Like, there's a lot of like good change, I think, that's been happening at the larger firms. Not certainly not every firm, but like that has been happening. And I think we'll probably continue to see that trend, especially as Renee, you mentioned that, maybe older gentlemen had been running various firms, but I'm also starting to see that change a bit, like that when I'm hiring people to do work for us, I mean, the partners that I'm hiring are, trending more around like their 40s, maybe, even 30s. So that, and not to say that that's, across the board, but I think that, as maybe a much older generation starts to transition from management, we'll see continued change in the right direction.
I think too, there's been a huge push around maternity and paternity leave, particularly in the last probably 5 to 7 years, and actually taking your maternity leave and pushing dads to take paternity leave, I think has been a real benefit.
I think the firms are evolving just as corporate America is evolving. We have mental health programs, we have REACH programs, there are leave programs that are, in place. And now with what's happened in the last 18 months, we're looking at how do you balance work from home, work from the office, who can do that, who are folks that are more eligible or more able to do that. I think all of that is those are all issues that are being dealt with at management level of all the firms, and at least the ones that I'm aware of, that are all, and they're all dealing with it a little different. So, and those policies are actually an evolving, it's something that's still evolving over the last 3-4 months, and will evolve into the future.
Absolutely. I think, one of the lasting kind of pluses of COVID is we've really seen how we can be more flexible, and it still works. I worked for the state for a long time. They thought nobody could ever possibly work from home and do this job. They were just blown away by the idea. And then COVID made you have to work from home. And now they have a flexible policy where you're in the office 1 or 2 days a week. And turns out you can do the job in different locations. And I think COVID has definitely opened a lot of people's eyes to that. Let's wrap up with going around and asking you kind of what in law school prepared you for what you're doing now, and what advice would you give to current law students about kind of getting their foot in the door, getting out of law school, and where to go next. And let's start with Armando on that one.
Well, I came to West Virginia in 1995 when I graduated law school, and I knew 3 people: my wife, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law. That's it. So that was a difficult transition in that I hadn't really had much time or opportunity to get my foot in the door as far as the community and being able to get to know folks. I did spend a summer at the State House the summer before I graduated. For folks, figuring out where you want to be, but once you get there, get out, be around your colleagues, folks that you're going to be practicing with, and that you're going to be involved in the community. I would tell you that, when you're leaving law school, I mean, law school definitely doesn't really get you ready to practice law. That's for darn sure. I don't know anyone who thinks that going to law school gets you ready to practice law. It gets you to the point where you can pass a bar exam and get a license. But once you're out and you've decided where you want to practice and where you're going to try to sink some roots, hopefully you've already got some roots there, maybe. And then you sort of immerse yourself in the community that you're in, not just in the law firm either. I mean, outside of the law firm again, and get to know your surroundings and the people that you're going to be working with. Again, not just in the firm, everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Let me throw it to you, Stefanie.
Sure. I think my answer is similar to Armando's in that, you're not going to get sort of like much of the you are not likely to get much of the substantive law that you'll need for your practice in law school, but you will learn, like the issue spotting and basically how to think like a lawyer. So I think that what is most valuable to get out of law school is probably to take a wide variety of classes, like expose yourself to different subject areas, take what might be interesting if it's like an additional constitutional law class or a trial advocacy class, an employment class, just to learn different areas and get an idea of what is interesting to you. And then the other thing is really the relationships. I mean, law school provides you with like an excellent jumpstart for networking. Stay in touch with your classmates, get to know them, get to know your professors, sign up for all the other things that are in law school, things like, the moot court boards and the clinics and internships and, student bar associations, things like that, because you'll just have more connections, more touch points. And, you never know where people will end up. And it's likely that, 10 years later, you'll know people in all different firms and all different companies and agencies, and that'll really help you in your career.
Absolutely. Renee, how about you?
I learned the most working during the summers for a law firm. You learn the nuts and bolts. You learn about, how to get stuff done, where to get help, where to look for answers. So to me, that was the most valuable. I agree that law school is not the best place to learn the nuts and bolts of practicing law. And I would also remind everyone that a law firm is a business. I've run into many a lawyer that would, argue that, whoa, no, we're not a regular business, we're a law firm. And somehow they think rules of business apply differently, but no, you still have to pay your bills and keep the lights on. So, yeah, and I think you learn that working in the summers or even, clerking or doing an internship during the school year and getting to know people. And that is the easiest way to figure out if you really like that field of law. If you decide that you don't like it, you can work for somebody else and sample another area of the law. And again, learn the nuts and bolts so that you are, a more qualified candidate. When you graduate from law school, you'll have some job experience. You'll have a good reference, hopefully, and that will help you, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely echo the importance of starting your network now. Not only do you not know if the person sitting next to you is going to be your judge someday, but people around you are going to be your colleagues for the rest of your career. I mean, I'm in a situation where I practice in the town where I went to law school. So certainly I see a lot of my law school classmates frequently, and actually, building that network and maintaining that network led me to this job. So it really it's important to really think about, starting now to start developing those professional connections. And then the other thing I would say is it strikes me listening to all of us talk that none of us are in our first job out of law school. And I think that's a way that the profession has changed even in the time since I've been out, certainly when I was in law school, I think the conventional wisdom was you graduate, you go work at a firm, you'd become a partner after 6 or 7 years, and then you just work there for the rest of your life. And that certainly isn't, exactly how things are going now for a lot of people. And so if you don't know today exactly what you want to do, you have the opportunity to kind of keep yourself open and say yes to different opportunities that arise. Certainly, this is not what I thought I'd be doing when I was in law school, but it's turned out great. So, having those connections helps lead you to different opportunities. But also if you find, you get out, you find your job, you love it. I'm not saying leave your firm if you like it. But I think that certainly there's a lot of opportunity to try different things as well.
There's definitely a lot more mobility out there than there ever was. I mean, when I started, what you mentioned, Anna, was, basically the career path for most folks. And that's just not the case anymore. And it definitely is not something that has to be, that's what you have to do. So it's important to be happy in what you're doing. If you like where you are, you stay. But if you think that there's something else out there that's better, I think most young lawyers are perfectly willing to make that leap to something different. That is something that's different from just a generation ago, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when I started with the state, everybody in that office had been there for most of their careers, and it was surprising to them to see people kind of come in and out and go different places. And so it's definitely, I guess my advice is wander if you want to wander. So let me open it up to see if there's any questions from the students who are in attendance. And while you're thinking about them, you feel free, you don't have to turn your camera on. You can ask in the chat. Let me pull up the chat. Let me remind you too that we have these great opportunities for law students. We have the academic scholarships, in addition to the Schetroma Travel Grant Scholarship, which will provide you with all your expenses to attend the Annual Institute, which this year is going to be June 12th through 14th in Amelia Island, Florida. It's June 12th through 14th, 2022. I guess that's technically next year, but I've already started thinking about 2022. And it's a really great opportunity to build those connections. And one thing I would add too, I meant to say when I was on the last question, was to reach out to practitioners who are doing what you're interested in. I know it can be scary, but lawyers are always willing to talk about what they do and talk about themselves. And so feel free to reach out to me. If you think, hey, I'd really like to practice in West Virginia. Do you have any people that I can talk to? Absolutely, I do. So feel free to reach out to me, and I can help you find some people in the area of the law, the area of the country. We have EMLF has a lot of connections all over the country. So feel free to please reach out to me. I'm going to post our website in the chat. And then we will also let you know when the applications are available for the scholarships for 2022. And I also put my email address in the chat so that you can reach out to me directly. Let's see, does anybody have any questions or comments for our panelists? Seeing anything pop up. So I'll just remind you to keep an eye on emlf.org. We have also a lot of on-demand programming you can check out. If it's something that has a fee associated, you can always use the code student to be able to watch it for free. And if you do think of any questions, feel free to let me know. And I thank all of our panelists for their participation today. That was a really great, interesting discussion. And all of our attendees for joining us today. And I'll release you now to enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.